Are we good? We good up here?
Nula. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Welcome to another Communal Conversation. I am Dasha St. Remy, the manager here at the Little Haiti Cultural Complex, and I'm going to take care of some what they call bills. It's I think it's important for me to shout out LACU, which is our neighboring community event space right behind the Little Haiti Cultural Complex, who have been sponsoring Communal Conversation since day one. I mean, we're day 4, as far as events, but it's good to just honor the people that helps you from the beginning, because we believe we're going to grow this conversation and this platform. And so we give shout out to Aaron, Joe, and the whole crew of LACU for sponsoring this communal conversation. And so without further ado, today's conversation is about the power of storytelling. And I have the honor to be sitting alongside these 3 gentlemen here who are of Haitian descent, or IECMM, and they will share their journey. We will talk about storytelling, and get into some of the films and the reasons why they felt moved to develop such story. So we're going to start from my far end with Dudley, who will introduce himself and his latest project. So if you can introduce yourself and your latest project to the community, and we'll get started with the conversation.
My name is Dudley Alexis. I'm a filmmaker. My last project was a documentary, The Creole Pig, which is currently out on you can watch it on PBS Passport for free, and it's available on PBS. So that's it.
And that film was also screened here 2 weeks ago.
Yes, it was, and we had it was. I really loved the talk that happened after, so it was a really, really good screening. Thanks.
All right, my name is Samuel Dameus. I am the founder of Faces of Haiti, which is a platform that promotes the best of Haiti, everything Haitian. I'm also a filmmaker. My current project is The Heroes of the Massaco River, which is a documentary aims to showcase and to pay homage to all those workers that actually get this monumental canal came to life. And I want to say I'm very honored to be here, not only for the invitation, but I strongly think that I'm in between 2 great creative, and I know it's going to be a great conversation, and I want to speak with my heart. So I speak fluently Creole and Francais and a little bit in English, so get ready to hear some part when it coming from my heart in Creole.
Yes.
Beautiful. Thank you. My name is Edson Jean. I am a filmmaker and an actor. And my most recent project is titled Know Me, The Untold Miami Bath Salts Phenomenon. It's a feature film, a fiction feature film that chronicles the Haitian family that was affected by the event that happened in the Miami Causeway years ago, that we know as the Miami bath salts attack. So a lot of people don't know that was a Haitian family, and it's a story about mental health. So that's a project that's out right now. Like Samuel said, I am very happy to be here and honored to be here and to discuss story with you all, and thank you so much, Descent, for. Oh yeah, that also had a premiere here as well, as part of the Miami Film Festival, and that was shout out to Little Haiti Cultural Complex.
Shout out to Little Haiti Cultural Complex.
Let's give a shout out. But yeah, happy to be here.
Awesome. And Samuel, I just want to say for those who are in the audience that the premiere of that event is May 30th. You do not want to miss it. It's going to be such a spectacular as far as the people who are coming out to, because we've been following this story for such a long time. But the people who want to know more, and we will have an opening and opening for this film, a reception, a talk back. So please, that is Friday the 30th. Please come out and support that premiere here at the Little Haiti Cultural Complex. So let's get into it. Storytelling. How, when, where, why? How did you start this journey in storytelling, and why was it so important for you to tell your story through film?
Who wants to start? You want to go?
And you can parler Creole too, you can parler tout long, so you can interchange it because I will.
How did I start? It's kind of hard for me to say when I started, really, because I've been since high school, really. I've been doing I've been working with film and production and just go to high school. But I'm gonna say the moment that really changed everything for me is I was at a conference in Vegas, and that's the whole point of doing my first feature documentary was Liberty in the Sioux, is having a conversation with a cab driver that came from West Africa, and the fact we're having such an important conversation about Haiti. He knew so much about Haiti and told me how important Haiti was to him. And I was a Haitian that was sitting in the back and hearing that, and he started talking about Subjumu and different heroes from the Haitian Revolution, and I remember that vividly. And he started talking about his favorite hero, which is Christophe, and he was talking about him as a general, what he heard, and that was somebody that was a Haitian that was telling me that story, and it stuck with me, and I decided I wanted to do a documentary about Haiti. And before that, I was mostly trying to focus on doing narrative, and that really changed everything. That little moment there changed everything, and that's when I really started doing documentaries, and I love it, and I love telling the stories. I love telling the story of us Haitians, and I love telling Black people in the diaspora, and Black people that crossed the Atlantic, involuntarily. So that's how it started with me, and I hope I keep doing it, and I hope I keep discovering those stories, and also the stories for me, a lot of them are stuff I'm discovering for the first time, and investigating, you're finding new things, you become familiar more and more with your culture a lot of time, and more with your identity. All that really came up in telling those stories.
I've always been a storyteller for as long as I can remember. My story starts with a lot of emotion, because I didn't know that I was a storyteller until I got to explain what I have inside of me after the earthquake. Yes. Well, after the earthquake, I was one of those people that was fortunate enough to go through a lot, but to stay alive and to see other people that you love, they make it. And that's when I felt that I have to tell this story. But I didn't want to tell the story in a way that people can only see what other people are saying, but I wanted it to be something that other people can inspire and see. If I'm alive right now, if I'm alive today, it's for a reason. So that's why I started Faces of Haiti with pictures. And the Faces of Haiti get me to the point where I understand the power of images, the power of storytelling, the power of connecting people with what they can see, and how to really push the narrative in a way that people can connect with it in a very deeper way. So with pictures, I could understand that when you freeze a moment in time, the emotion that you have as a photographer, it will give people as well the latitude, the possibility for them to feel the same thing, even beyond. Because when you're looking at a picture, you see what I'm showing you, but you also see what you already know. So what I'm giving you is a basic of what you will add on to create your own story. And with a video, with a film, it goes beyond that. It's not only one medium. It's not only what you see. It's also what you hear. The sound is also the narrative, the way that the creator wants for you to understand the story. But the same basic stay in a way that what you see is a framework for you to build on it to create your own story, your own understanding. And this is why us creatives, our job is very important because we are nous ces fondations qui peuvent permettre que we allow more people that are actually watching, seeing or pictures or films to build the emotion that can get them to connect with what matters. And in this case, this is Haiti.
Yeah.
Haiti, what matters, and our job is to create that foundation. Not only a foundation, but it's also a legacy. After the earthquake, I decided to start taking pictures. And I'm arrivé à un point côté que moi even senti que I have the eye to be able not only to see what's happening, but to see the positive side of it, which is not easy for you to be able to see the positive side of an event like the earthquake, because it's obviously on va arriver comme ça, tout ça ouais c'est dans la guerre, c'est disaster and everything. So je pense que ça a vraiment fait des clics dans la tête moi, to the point to understand que when I was growing up, my mom was the one telling me the stories about Haiti, about proverbs, about things that I have to remember, mœurs, coutumes. And as I'm getting to be the person I am right now, most people do not have a chance to live the same experience que moi-même avons peut-être vivre avec parents nous qui te parlé nous de mœurs. They have to rely on the same foundation that I was talking about earlier for them to understand, to stay connected not only with Haiti, but also with what makes them Haitian. Mm-hmm. So all those meeting ensemble got me to understand, hey, we cannot just do things to do them. We have to be intentional. Yeah. If you have the talent, if you understand exactly your purpose avec storytelling, if you understand that as a photographer, as a videographer, as a filmmaker, you understand exactly what's happening, why it is needed, it has to be intentional. And this is why today, after a while, je suis vraiment très fier pour dire que mission ça que nous gagnons comme monde qui gagne art, qui c'est créatif, pour nous capable permettre que legacy ça aurait été. I'm very happy to see that there are people like me, like Dameus Sao et un pilote toujours, qui eux-mêmes qui voulaient aller encore plus loin ensemble avec ça. Pour qui ça? Parce que nous ne pas parler des gens qui a fait longue forme, nous parlons avec des gens qui fait short form. For example, nous avons un docteur Bertrand qui c'est dans la même situation, qui fait des short form videos, mais avec même intention ça. Nous avons un pilote influenceur qui eux-mêmes comprennent que l'essentiel c'est pas vraiment format, l'essentiel c'est message. Non? Et pour moi-même c'est ça qui est plus important. Je ne vais pas parler trop longtemps parce que je ne vais pas parler. Go ahead.
No, yeah, merci, man. A lot of my experience is in what Samuel is talking about. More specifically, it was since I was young, but I wasn't aware of that till I was older, because my foundation in story came from my mom, from blagues, from conchates, things like that. She was like, that was my kultsi. Like every time we would get down on the carpet, and she would have another blague for us, and some of them were scary, but like she showed me storytelling, and so that was infectious, and that started my interest into acting, because I just feel like all Haitians are storytellers by proxy. They're always telling their stories, just so much in the culture. And so then I started through acting, and then I didn't feel like I had the agency that Samuel's kind of talking about, or the intentionality. So then I started writing and started directing, and that's when I feel like I still act, but having the opportunity to tell this story, there's more power. Not more. There's a power that I was looking for that exists in that. And so that's really where my story, the foundation of my story kind of came from. My mom just, I don't know, raising her kids, but telling her all these Haitian blagues and stories. Also my grandma, before she came over, because she would send us cassettes and like also do similar and sing us songs and different things like that. So that's how my sort of foundation and story grew. Yeah.
I love the conversation around our parents being storytellers, right? And the ability for us to tell stories because we glean from them. I shared a similar story how my grandparents that was the only way they send message outs was to record it. They weren't writing, right? And Samuel, you talk about projection, which is what a film does. It projects something, right? It projects an image, it projects a sound, it projects a feeling. But we all can be watching the same thing at the same time and totally get a different experience. Intentionality in storytelling. How do you navigate what you're trying to convey to what the audience may perception? Like how do you play with that in filmmaking?
Well, for me, I don't try to control it because I think art is always up to perception. I do have intentionality that there are things that I am going for. So I wouldn't say not try to control it, but not try to control it entirely. Because clearly I have my intention, I have the direction, and I'm more... It's interesting because I've always been in narrative, so I haven't explored necessarily... well, I've done documentary, but for other people, maybe I'm just jumping on a project and helping someone out. But narrative, it lends itself more to interpretation because it's not necessarily always fact-based. So because of that, I'm constantly in this in-between of the messages I am trying to present to an audience, but also not being heavy-handed because I want them to... I think the version of fact that documentary can lean on, filmmakers lean on the cathartic experience. So if I make someone feel something and go through this experience, that feeling becomes truth. And then through that feeling, they're able to contextualize how they feel about something that they saw.
Regardless of the feeling.
Yeah, I think because empathy is the access point really to change is what I believe, because there's so many atrocities happening in the world, so many, like the Haitian story is one story of many, but the thing that gets people to move and do something is empathy, and like story is that tool to kind of capture empathy. If you can tell that story effectively, someone sees themselves or something about them in the story or picture or art that they're engaging with, and hopefully if the empathy taps into them, that it causes them to respond and like engage with that art. So I try to move in a place from like empathy, and especially with this last project, it's very difficult because the character is not necessarily someone who is like, it's not the easiest person to advocate for, considering what he did. But I kind of like, that's a great challenge, because can we still be empathetic and see humanity in people that have done harmful things? Because even when I think about Haiti and I think about like the gang members and different things like that, these are all people that are also victims. You know what I mean? And it's so easy to just be like, this is wrong. This is, black and white. The world is not that way. So I don't know. I kind of approach it in that space. And usually if I could tap into that, people move in the way that I hope them to. Of course, you have people that if your heart is hardened, you can't receive the message. So you can't. That's just, I'm not in control of how someone receives it.
I think that it's not, you cannot force, you can only invite. Because when you force, if I'm pushing you through the door and I'm forcing you to get inside, you will just stay. Once you pass the door, you will just stay waiting for me to keep pushing you to where you have to go. But if I'm inviting you in, and you willingly decide to come in, you already have an idea of what inside, and you also have space to welcome what you don't even know. So I strongly think that we cannot force anyone to any direction. We can invite them to explore new perspective, new views of what's happening or life, and this is the foundation of it. And not only that, it's very important as well for people to feel like they can, I'll go back to what I was saying, they can add their own story to the story. The best movies are the movies after the movie you feel like there's something that I want to add. I want to know more about it. It's not you feel like the story is not, it did not end with the end credit. You still think that, you still think about it, you still think about a sequel, how the next film, how it should be. So it's the same thing with any part of storytelling, being able to create the welcoming environment for people to actually bring new ideas to something that is greater than what you presented to them.
We're talking about intention. I feel like, we cannot afford not to be intentional. And sometimes, and you also talk about the audience. And a lot of time people try to make movie to just please the audience. I try my best not to do that. And if it's a story I'm telling the story and have, hope. I'm just saying, I hope they have a good reaction to the story. And sometimes, even me telling stories, so I have to investigate. And myself, sometimes I have to be careful not to just tell the story. I want to, be careful, just to tell the story of what I want to hear or what I want to say because sometimes you discover new things. It take you to direction you didn't expect it to take you. And sometimes the thing that you believed wasn't the truth at all. It was just, so you have to constantly put those things into account. And also, since the Haitian Revolution, Haiti has never been portrayed outside of Haiti in any good way. I've read articles from that I was taking testimonies from French that was escaping Haitian Revolution, and the way they describe Haiti, the way they talk about people that's doing the revolution. So ever since then, there's never been a good portrayal of Haiti in, let's just say Western media. So we have to be intentional. We have to, when we're telling our story, we have to be extremely careful how we tell it. And we don't want to, fall into the trap sometimes they want us to fall in. So I try my best to tell a story of Haiti that is authentic. That is true. I grew up half my life in Haiti. That is true to my own experience in Haiti, and I go to Haiti often. So, and even not just in Haiti, living here in the U.S. as a black person, we have to be careful of those stories because we don't get portrayed in any good light. When it happens, it's everybody look at it as a, what's the word I'm looking for? Anomaly, it's like, oh, it happened. So we have, and also, speaking of intention, we cannot let our stories be told by someone else. We have to be the one dominating our own storytelling. We cannot allow, because I always said that, if you have one script about General Lee from and you give it to a black person and you give it to a white person in the South, you will get same script, same everything. You get two different stories. about the same person. So that's why we have to be careful. We cannot let them tell our stories. We have to grab it when we can, because they're intentional in the way they tell our story. We have to be intentional in the way we tell our story. Yeah.
Who is
I want to ask. I think there are stories that get people to react. There are other stories that get people to act. So sometimes some story can get you to have a reaction, and some other story can get you to see that, it's a call to action. I think those two things are very important as well to mention in terms of the intention, what I'm trying to achieve. I'm trying to get people to do something better with after they're done watching my story, or I want people to feel something after they're done watching. You can do both as well.
I want to piggyback on that too. A little bit, for the sake of conversation, just a little bit contention in the idea. I want to be careful with extremes, right? Always and nevers. I'm usually always not always. I try to be conscious of that. And in the spirit of storytelling, right? Stories are everywhere, like you're saying, in pictures and different things. And where we're getting our stories is a big question. And so what you were saying, Dudley, about like there never being a positive portrayal of Haiti, I don't think that's true since the revolution. I think, unfortunately, the most popular portrayals are negative. But there are several books, but a lot of people don't read since then that have really great portrayals of Haiti and from Haitian authors and different things like that. But granted, I'm not an author, I'm a filmmaker, but I think that's also like in this conversation of art and stories, how we engage with stories is not just films, right? It's we know this, but in these other areas, there are opportunities to tap into different forms of storytelling. And I don't know, I just feel like I'm also like discovering a lot of these books too. So it's not like I've been on this. I'm also like
the thing is,
this is like a new.
I know I was generalized, but I know there's been books and great stories we tell about Haiti, but the overwhelming percentage.
Absolutely.
Of
what's mainstream?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So,
but that's a good point. That's why I bring it up, because I also don't want us as a people to be dependent on the mainstream, because that's how we're controlled.
That is true. That is true. That's a lot of like especially great authors that that talked about Haiti, described Haiti. It's like they're obscure, and it's when you find them, I always tell people, Tulio is one of my favorite person to read, and not only the way he talk about Haiti and then the way he talk about the Black diaspora. So that's one person I like to, because a lot of the stuff I deal with is mostly politics and the history of Haiti within that sense. That's one person I like to read, and I always like to point Haitian to actually grab his books. Yeah.
I want to shift our question, focusing on the audience. Who are you writing or telling the story for?
Oh, wow.
And there's a follow-up question, but
Well, okay.
if you can brief, because I want a follow-up question. If you can brief, who you writing or telling your story for, Dudley?
Well, that's interesting, because when I'm telling the story, I'm not gonna say it's for the general audience or anything like that, but in many ways, I'm gonna selfishly say if it's a story I can sit down and watch, and that's in many ways I feel like I'm telling it for me, and then hoping other people can watch it, because I don't want to feel like an odd, because I'm a lot of the stuff I'm doing is documentaries. I don't want to start creating stuff for an audience and hoping and start feeding them what they want. So I'm trying to be careful. That's what I feel like, I'm trying to tell the story in a way, mostly, I'm doing stories about Haitian diaspora, the African diaspora, the African American here. So I try my best I know a lot of my audience is gonna be these people that I'm familiar with, I'm around, but I try not to think too much about the audience, because when I feel like if I start doing that, my story is gonna get lost. It's gonna say, oh, my audience want to see this, my audience want to see that. So I try my best not to do that. So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very tricky question, and I love it. There's no one specific answer to say, hey, my story is for myself, or the story is for the people or the general public. Story itself is, histoire en lui-même, li gen essence pâle. Et li gen capacité pour lui toucher moun que il doit toucher. Il est capable de toucher vous-même, il est capable de toucher l'autre monde. Attention, l'on bâti histoire là pour qu'être orienté, car lui-même fait que histoire là vienne biaisée, vienne qu'être en sorte de et il y a une dimension que le cas peut-être pas arrivé mature assez parce que tu fait le biaisé. Give you an example. Par exemple, moi d'accord ensemble avec dans le sens que nous pas joindre mainstream media vraiment, ou bien qui gros production qui fait sur histoire nous, mais vraiment nous gain l'autre monde qui avec livre, avec bouche à bouche qui parlait, qui vraiment fait permettre que jusqu'à présent il y a des bagages qu'on entendait qui move. Le fait que nous attendons que c'est un mainstream média qui vienne faire un bagage pour nous, vienne mettre nous dans une situation côté que nous pensons que story que ou habitude de qui pas gros mainstream non, yo pas as big as you t'a supposé. So ou vienne dans une situation côté que senti que si c'est pas lui même qui raconte story ça, même si lui même raconte une story, c'est même story vient dans petit gens perdu dans dimension juste parce que c'est pas lui même, parce que en fait depuis au commencement on était dans stéréotype non penser que c'est lui qui raconte story ça.
So like Tyler Perry and Spike Lee.
Thank you. So c'est ça.
But that's preference too, though. That's a matter of preference, where some people may prefer a Tyler Perry film, and I would prefer a Spike Lee film because there's a particular style, a way in which these directors, each of y'all have your own style, right? That calls or draws me to continue to eat from your stories, or take in your story, right?
Yeah, I mean, go ahead.
Oui, je voulais finir pour te dire que effectivement c'est ça, parce que c'est juste que je développé qui back sur what they were saying en termes de qui est-ce qui audience non vraiment. Pour moi-même et en essence et bon pour me résumer ça me le dire, story faut bal capacité pour le capable dans lui-même toucher monde que il doit toucher. Vous comprenez, ça veut dire il fait non intention côté que si c'est d'achat qu'il doit toucher, m'pas obligé faire le pour d'achat à toucher parce que story est authentique. Il est authentique dans lui-même et il a gagné capacité pour le toucher monde pour le toucher. Par exemple, histoire d'Haïti, c'est sûr certain que l'a touché haïtien, mais ça arrive tout que m'pas pas le font film histoire d'Haïti seulement pour haïtien. On capable faire tout pour l'autre monde capable toucher. C'est comme ça tout cas des histoires de l'autre pays qui en Afrique qui pas fait pour haïtiens, mais nous même les nous garder qui touchait nous tout par rapport à l'authenticité qui gagne dans l'histoire là.
Yeah, this is like you said, difficult, and I love it. I'm at the crossroads of this question with the project specifically because there's the duality of telling a story that has reach, because there is value in also being commercial, because there is influence, and the same commercial things that influence us to think a certain way or influence our perspectives on a culture, that is because that person or platform or whatever has reach, right? So in all my work is super specific and authentic and to my specific experience. I've been exploring not necessarily thinking about, oh, I'm going to make it for this audience, but there are specific changes to the art that if I change, it naturally opens it up for a larger audience, right? So there's a film right now that I'm in development and finance for, and it's a story set in Haiti, but we want bigger talent. So it can't be in Creole. You know what I mean? So that might seem like a smaller thing, but there's certain sacrifices, and I don't say can't, anything's possible. But for example, if we wanted, just throwing out a name, if we wanted Lupita, I'd rather her speak English because I don't want her to drag the Creole language. You know what I mean? We've seen this already in films as well, when someone like tries and you're like, yo, only we care. All the other people love it. And they're like, oh yeah, Haitian props. But you know, so there's these adjustments, because I am exploring this place where like my film has been indie, but I also do want my influence and my scope to go out. So it's like, hey, what adjustments do you make? Because that doesn't mean the story's now not authentic, you know, because we've seen that in so many other films, like so many American films that take place in other countries and like they just speaking English, you know, it's a French film, and they're just speaking English to make it accessible for their audience. So that's just one example. Obviously, there's so many examples, but and it depends on your goals as a artist or whatever it is. But there are certain films where I'm like, no, that has to be in Creole, or that has to be in this specific place or shot in this place. Even like filming in Haiti is becoming difficult. Like we're having conversations with producers because it's a business at the end of the day. And sometimes at least for the range we're going for, and we're talking to financiers, and it's hard to say we have to shoot in Haiti when Trinidad, Guadeloupe, Colombia, and Jamaica have film incentives that give them their money back. And Haiti doesn't have a film commission, so there's certain things that, at least in that larger commercial space, that makes certain things harder. But you know, there's certain projects where I could be like, fine, I don't want to do that. I'm doing this specific story, and I have to do it in Haiti, and I'm doing it. So there are concessions, like for example, a proof of concept for that project. I'm shooting in Haiti because it's more, I can have control over that. It's smaller, it's a court-métrage, like I can do that. But when you start to get, there's certain things that it becomes, we live in a capitalistic society, so it's an interesting conversation. If I was already wealthy and I could make my art without any consideration of the return, then I think I wouldn't care who the audience is, and I would just make it, and like maybe decades later they'd be like, oh, there's all these films by this guy no one ever knew about, and people might like it. But yeah, I think it's also my livelihood.
So my follow-up question, and then this will be the last question before we ask the audience to engage you all in conversation, is how then are you intentional about bringing the narrative to specific community that identifies with you, rather Black, Haitian American, Haitian? How are you intentional about bringing that story to that community? Because here's the thing, my experience has been that oftentimes we as Haitian people, we have the one narrative, which is we were the first Black independent nation. There's so much more narrative beyond that, right? And so I see people outside of our culture. I know people who we have conversation, they know more about our culture than we know. And so how are you intentional about bringing it to our youth, our people who speak like you, look like you, may or may not even have your education or your mindset?
Okay. Well, this is something I've been very intentional about. With my first feature film, Ludzi, it was like I went on, and Inez, actually, she's a musician, performed in some of our screenings. We actually wanted to do a lot of what they call semi-theatrical screenings, which are not necessarily in traditional theaters. We went to churches, we went to schools. We did go to theaters as well, but we took the film in a tour in these specific communities where there's a lot of Haitians or whatever, all the way up to Orlando from like a southeast tour. And that was hard because I had to raise money separately from that, because my distributors, the traditional distributors, don't want to spend money on something like that necessarily. So if you want to do that, you're gonna have to put on a lot of hats to make it happen. So it's a big part in, and I'm thinking about it for Nomi, but more in a digital space, because I definitely want to reach into self-distribution, but through the digital space. So, but the conversation, it's a tricky conversation, because there is traditional distribution we want. We do want to be in theaters, but then, so some of these distributors, they want all your rights. So it's a tough negotiation, but I am more and more trying to, and then ultimately at one point I just want to like have the complete rights. That's hard because you're asking money at the end of the day. But yeah, doing the tour was a really great experience, because all of our audiences looked like us, and we got people from other cultures, but we were making it easy for like the mummies or whatever to be like stumble upon it, or be like, oh, because the pasta is like, yo, we're doing this thing, they're showing up. My next film I can't show in a church, but yeah. Anyway, but that's how that first film was.
I think that the story never stops. We are the story. Yeah. And we keep telling a story. The difference is, are we capturing the story or not? For example, the Haitian Revolution, if at some point there was nobody that could say, okay, let me get most information about the Haitian Revolution for the next generation, we would be in the situation, I mean, we were in that situation. Are we still in the situation where it's the colon itself that will and is telling the story? So the fact that we do understand that, as I was saying, the essence of what we're saying or what we live in, the everyday life of Haitian, is not only something that we can portray in one just specific story. It's something that we can portray in a collective story, in a collective effort as well, for us to say that what's happening right now, it's worth sharing with other people, worth sharing with the next generation. So my personal position is to never try to prendre histoire là ou faire tourner, ou c'est vous qui mettez histoire là. I am serving the story. The story is not serving me. The story is not serving my pocket. It's not serving my what I want to achieve. I know it will happen, but I want to make sure that I am the one trying to put myself in a position where I keep pushing the story, but not the story pushing me as a filmmaker. Because if you let the story faire route li normal, il pral non seulement connecter avec monde qui veut le connecter, et il pral permettre tout pour me retourner dans la même question au commencement. Pour qui ça va faire soit faire, il pral permettre tout au gain sentiment que your mission c'était vraiment permettre que majorité monde gain accès à story. Pas parce que you want to force them, but because you want to invite them to take a minute, take a moment, just même genre que c'est pour photo là. C'est que peut-être c'est when I take the picture, you will be able to realize, oh, à part c'était jaune, the floor was yellow. While you here, you don't even pay attention to it, because cerveau don't pay attention to those things. It's all over the place. But one picture can allow you to see things that you did not pay attention to. It's the same thing for the story. It's the same thing for a film, it's for documentary. It allows you to see that one thing or some histoire à part de histoire personnelle qui a passé autour de vous-même. So, I strongly think that this conversation, c'est des conversations que nous devons faire dans la communauté, because I think we need more people that can truly capture and tell our story. It cannot only be me, you, him. It has to be all of us, parce que nous toutes là c'est historien, and the story never stops.
Well, you're right. You know, we are the story, and the story is in us. And how do I try to reach my audience? I try my best, to have it available pretty much everywhere. So all my projects are pretty much easy. You can just Google them and you can see them available on YouTube, like Vimeo, and different platforms. And one thing I want to talk about, you mentioned, Haitians, we talk a lot about the revolution and stuff, but we do have a rich story that's over 200 years old. I'm not talking pre-revolution, I'm talking post-revolution, because even, for example, I like to say the Haitian Revolution started in 1857 with Macandal. So it's just a continuation, and you can go back. You say, hey, Kaunabo, and this like that. So the story can go back. So it's more than 400 or 500 years of history, and you go, and there's the American occupation. That's and there's just recently you had the Tea movement that gave the rise to Aristide, and that's a story I think we don't talk about a lot, because there's a story when that's one of the story stuff I'm exploring now, is one of the thing when you find out how many during that whole era, that coup, how many priests that got assassinated, how many leaders that got assassinated, like 3,000 people. Literally, not killed, assassinated. So it's like, we have such interesting stories and stuff to dig in and talk about. And I feel like a lot of people get stuck in the revolution, but even today, what's happening today, we need to talk about those stories and what's happening in Haiti now. And a lot of them, and I feel like the fact we don't talk about the American occupation that much, because a lot of them go back to the American occupation. So, because the structure we're dealing with now in Haiti go back to that occupation. Yes. So we have to tell those stories. We have to bring them to the forefront, because a lot of the stuff we talk about, as Haitian, we say, oh, we have this, like, know where the problem come from, so you can address it properly. So a lot of it come from, us dealing with the outside world and how they approached us, and also how we have our own internal issues. So, and they grab our internal issues and feed off of it. Yes. So, our class issues, our colorism issues, all of that. And I think because we don't talk about them, we do not know how to address them. That's why we have to tell those stories. That's why we have to bring it to the forefront. So, as a documentary filmmaker, I'm gonna try my best to bring those in the forefront, and I'm not afraid to talk about them. That's what I was saying. You have to be careful. Do not tell stories. Do not say what you want to hear, but say what actually the truth that come. And sometimes there's a lot of time I'm looking at something and I was like, oh, that's not what I want to hear, but that's what happened. So yeah, that's what I want to say. Yeah.
Thank you. So this is the opportunity that our audience have to engage our guest speakers in any questions that you may have for the directors here. So I'm gonna hand this mic. Anybody have any questions, please feel free.
All right.
So, my question well, first of all, I always start with, how do you say that? Créole anglais moins écoute. How do you say that? But on salutation pour nous chaque là, because it is very important to know that we have Haitian American directors that are usually not seen, right? I know Edson is doing a lot. He's done Moonlight, Ludi, a couple of films that he's given me a chance to be a part of, always calling me to come do something. So I thank you for that. Definitely for Samuel. We talked about this earlier, and I was like, oh, he's an influencer, because the first time I heard about Samuel was, I used to watch Dr. Love, right? And, he was everyone's Zaboka, so, we were just like, oh, he's so cute, and we only came on there for him. But to know that you are also a director, you're a filmmaker, chapeau bas. Dudley, you know already how I feel about you with your documentary about the pigs. Beautiful documentary. Thank you always for trusting us to showcase all of you. It's really interesting to see that you guys still find your way, even though we don't have parts of Haiti to go back to right now. You know you have this space, which is for you, right? So thank you for trusting us to invite you guys here to just be a part of this community, because we truly need you. So it's not so much a question, it was just to
Thank you.
honor
Thank
you
you.
guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you.
Any questions?
Yeah, right? That's crazy. I'm like,
I think you do. I've been called upon.
I don't. Okay. I have to get up. Hi. Congratulations. This is nice. One thing, I came in a little late. Sorry, Miami traffic is real. But I wanted to know, the first time you guys picked up a camera, a phone, what did that feel like, and what was that purpose? When you picked it up, you said, what am I going to do with this? Or how can I tell a story? What was that feeling the very first time?
Okay, let me go. Because I was saying, I said that earlier. Yeah, my first time wasn't an happy time. It was, yes, it was a very, 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 very first time. It was after the earthquake. Yes, 2 days or 3 days after the earthquake, and I was majoring in communication, and after that, I have a friend who has a point-and-shoot camera, and the camera stayed in my hand, but I never really got a chance to give back to that friend. And then I was leaving Port-au-Prince to go to Okap because I'm from Okap after the earthquake. And while I was leaving Port-au-Prince to Okap, that's when I stopped. I said, I have to take some pictures. That was my very, very, very first time that I could actually intentionally say that I want to capture this. Now, of course, all of us, we could snap a picture, but intentionally knowing that I'm telling the story, it was the very, very first time. It's I'm very happy that you mentioned that we could really speak with our heart. Li mette dans situation côté m'a demandé que zamim ça qui ça le devenu. Et it's probably the first time that I'm saying this publiquement. Sometimes que j'ai l'impression que c'est presque un fardeau, on sorte de responsabilité. Because nous sommes dans cours ensemble, cours fini, caméra arrêtée dans même, lui même là, moi aller, moi par contre ça le devenu jusqu'à aujourd'hui. So le fait que m'te gen caméra, it was like c'est dit te dit m'be, prends responsabilité ça. Yes. Vous comprenez? So I'm happy because I didn't know that I have the eye to see things, to really capture as a photographer and as a filmmaker later, because ou ka bouke un téléphone dans mon, ka bouke une caméra dans mon qui bien cher, et puis moun qui a téléphone asil gen yeux, li ka gen possibilité pour ka permettre que li vend une story qui fait sens avec un monde qui juste a fait photo ou bien a fait vidéo. So I'm very grateful, and it makes me feel like the purpose I'm still asking myself, est-ce que moi live up to that expectation he probably didn't even know that he had, or myself, est-ce que m'a peut-être dans situation côté que I don't really live it out of my passion only. I live it as a guilt because I was the one being alive. I was the one having the camera. So tout élément ça c'est des éléments que m'pas fin cerner, but I'm very happy that I'm figuring out through my projects, and c'est ça qui fait all of my projects are about Haiti. All of them. Bah j'aime un projet fiction, aucun autre projet qui juste random story. All of them. Boyo was about Haiti. This documentary is about Haiti. My pictures are about Haiti. Faces of Haiti is about Haiti. So everything is about Haiti.
I want to say, the first time for me wasn't really picking up a camera. I started as an editor. And because my study actually, when I went to school, was to study animation. I ended up becoming really familiar to sitting in front of a computer for a long time. And all my friends started giving me their film to edit. So that's when I started really, because, as a director, they will say, hey, the film really is made in the editing room. So I started really, not only understand, how to tell stories and how to craft stories and how to bring narrative out of moving images, moving films, and even pictures out to bring story out of them, and that's how I started really, and from there, because even when I said I was in Vegas, I was still working as an editor, and I just started producing a little bit, and I think, and after that, having that conversation, that's when I really grab it and really start filming and become a really a calling for me. But before that, it was just really, it was always in the editing room, and still today, all my friends still call me to edit all their stuff, and or fix or edit when somebody else mess it up. So that's one of that's. Besides being a director, that's what I do really best.
Yeah, I think it's I don't know the first time. It's really hard. That's what I was trying to think. But because I started as an actor, my brother actually was the camera guy. So growing up, he was kind of like, "Oh, you do the camera thing. I'll be in front of the camera." But then, yeah, I'm just trying to figure. I mean, and because I was always around story, it wasn't like, oh, the camera for the first time. It's just I had a different relationship with it. But I think it kind of goes back to when I think it's my first short film. Not even that I was doing. It's so interesting because I was even doing it for school assignments. I was always trying to find a way to tell stories in undergrad, not even undergrad, high school. Even at church, it started with the pièce théâtre in the church and doing the Jesus play, even when phones weren't phones, their camera phones weren't the camera phones, I was still trying to use them to do school assignments. But I really found my voice and my intentionality after having already kind of had a relationship with the camera. So I didn't have necessarily this aha moment with the camera because I already learned how to express my storytelling in another way. So this was just this added to it for me. But it was, and I feel like I'm still learning, honestly. My relationship with the camera is changing constantly. I was just having a long conversation with a cinematographer earlier today because he was talking about cameras and I'm talking about shoot with the iPhone. It doesn't matter. But even the relationship with types of cameras when you're in this industry, it gets ridiculous sometimes because it's about, you're saying, the eye. It's about having the eye. The tool can be interchangeable. So yeah, my eye was being developed, I think, through my person first, and then I'm finding and still building a relationship with the camera. Yeah, because my films aesthetically are very different. The first one is very cinéma vérité, moving around. The other one is a little bit more framed. Who knows what the next one's going to be? So I think I'm still discovering that. Yeah. Thank you. That was a great question. And you weren't even going to ask it. Right?
Yeah, great question.
Yeah, right?
So I think maybe this will be our last question. I'll ask it. Dasha and I were talking about being behind the scenes, and sometimes as a creator, your well might run dry. So I'm curious about what feeds you or replenishes you when you're going through maybe a drought of creativity, and how do you build back again?
Solid question.
Yeah, I'm going to go first because mine's short. And not from a humble brag kind of place. I haven't found that my well has run dry. And I think that's because of what everybody's been talking about. Our stories are so undertold. So everything Samuel says, everything he does is about IT, and there's a reason, because those stories need to be told. So I kind of come from the same place where it's like more Haitian American stories. The next one's more just IT specifically, but like I hadn't seen a character like my mom on screen, so like I wanted to see that. And so it's always from this place of like the lack of authentic representation within our culture is what inspires me. And I just feel like there's too many stories, and I don't know. Writing, when you're like literally writing, sometimes I get like writer's block, but like the inspiration right now, thanks God, is like has been flowing. So.
As I was saying, we are the story. So the fact that we are the story, we can find story in everything, every situation. What's happening right now can be a beautiful story. It is a beautiful story, but what can make you feel like you lack an inspiration for you to build something that other people can watch is the fact that we go back to everything. It's full circle. What we were saying is for who I'm doing this, for whom. And if you do not understand, again, that the story itself lives for itself, you will put yourself in a position where you're looking for the perfect story based on what you have in your mind. But every story is worth telling because there's always somebody that can relate to that story. And every story can teach someone something else. And you can teach you exactly how to tell a story better. So I strongly think as Asian, we have to tell a story. And if there's one thing that two things. You said something that I will remember after this conversation. Also, you mentioned the fact that we're so focused on 1804, and there's so many other things happening. For example, you were telling about the occupation américaine. C'est ton haha moment lié pour moi tout. Parce qu'on dit, yeah, true. Even Offices of AD, we have to do a series where we really break down the occupation américaine. I'm pretty sure most Asian Americans do not really know what occupation américaine was. So yes, I think that we can tell a story, and if we will looking out in a way that we are not the one keeping important, but the story itself.
I'm gonna tell you, you mentioned the American occupation. I'm gonna answer your question, but I gotta tell you this story. I was working at MoCA. One of the first exhibition that came in was an exhibition about Haitian art that was in the Dominican Republic. Man, I forgot the name of the artist, but there's a painting that came in. Those paintings are Haitian painting that was done in the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, the 70s. There was one painting that came in, and that painting portrayed gendarmerie and Haitian prisoners with woods on their back walking, and they have the stripes that look like how do you call that? In the South when people have the chain gangs that look like the chain gang, and I looked at it and I was like, and as soon as I saw that painting, I was like, wow. But no one in the museum really understood the painting as much, like what they're actually looking at. And the painting is portraying the chain gang in Haiti that was brought by the American occupation in Haiti, that we call travail corvée. And corvée become like a word in Haiti that that during the American occupation, which is the chain gang they brought in Haiti. And I'm looking at this, and you look, by the time the painter painted this, the American occupation was over, and he was painting it out of memory. And I was looking at this painting, and I was like, and that's why it's important for us to talk about those stories, and even looking at the painting again, a lot of people doesn't understand, because that particular thing in Haiti, you hardly see those images of the American occupation, and to see that painter actually painted it and depicted it, and that's why I'm telling you, it's hard for me not to be inspired, not to find new stories, because they're constantly popping when you research and finding stuff about Haiti, and to see how, talking about the American occupation, how it's even connected to the American South, because the Marines that they sent came directly from the American South. And what they brought in was what they knew from the South, which is the chain gang, and you have Haitians back in slavery in their own land under the American occupation. Just, one of the thing, that's why I feel like, we have to keep telling those stories.
Thank you. Did you answer the question, Dudley, though? How do you take care of yourself?
Yeah.
Kind of. Because it can never run dry.
I want to thank Dudley Alexis, Samuel Dameus, Edson Jean. Thank y'all for taking the time and space for this communal conversation. Thank you all who have come to take part in the conversation as well. Thank you, City of Miami. Thank you for the Little Haiti Cultural Complex team and staff for making this possible. Again, we have a premiere film coming out next Friday. You don't want to miss it. Doors open at 6. Thank you very much. We will have a cocktail hour. We'll see the film, and then we'll have a light refreshment reception immediately afterwards. I also want to share that we still have events, Haitian Heritage Month event happening here at the Little Haiti Cultural Complex. Please grab a calendar. They're at both of the glass tables. Come back for another communal conversation next week, which is our last one for the Haitian Heritage Month segment. Thank you again. My name is Dasha St. Remy, and you just tuned into another communal conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.